Okay, Common Core Algebra 2. So we are starting with Chapter 5 now, which is going to be all about polynomials. And before we do that, we're going to cover 5.1 in two parts, which is going to be all about exponents. So in the first part here, we're going to talk about the product of powers, power of power, power of product, and the zero power property. So we'll have four properties that we'll cover in this first video. Okay, first one, the product of powers property. When that says when bases are multiplied, so what I mean by that is you see here in this example x and x, those are the bases, 3 and 5 are the exponents. So when your bases are multiplied, like we have right here, you are going to add the powers. And a very key word here is when like bases are multiplied. So if we did this, we'd have x to the 3 plus 5, which would give us x to the 8th. And that would be as simple as we could get for the first one. Okay, on the second one, a little more complex now, we need to make sure that we are doing like bases. So we're going to do x to the 5th, and then here you notice this is x to the 9th. So I'm going to put the x's first, x to the 14th, and then we have a y and a y squared. Now be careful, this power of 3 only goes to the z. It's actually a 1 with that y, so we'd end up with y to the 3rd. And then z, I can do the 3 and the 2 from our z's to get z to the 5th. So x to the 14th, y to the 3rd, z to the 5th, and we can't combine the rest of these together because x, y, and z are different bases or different variables. Okay, a power of a power. So now we have a base and a power. You see here a base, x, a power 2, raised to another power of 3. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take those powers and multiply them. So this would be x to the 2 times 3, which is x to the 6. Okay, on a little more complex one, we need to make sure that everything gets raised to the 4th. So 3 to the 4th, and then x to the 12th. And if we did 3 to the 4th, you can check in your calculators, but you're going to get 81, and then x to the 12th. Okay, so x to the 6th from that first one, 81x to the 12th from the second one. When you have a base and a power raised to power, you multiply the powers. When you have a product raised to a power, remember a product just means when you have two things multiplied here. So you see you have x squared times y to the 5th. We can't do anything with those, but when we raise them both to the same power, it's like distribution. We're going to raise each factor to that power. And you can think of this as, like I just said, distribution. Okay, so we'd end up with x to the 6th, because 2 times 3 is 6, and then 5 times 3 is 15, so y to the 15th. It's kind of like taking our last example or our last property and distributing it. So here what I'm going to do first is inside my parentheses first. I'm going to worry about that 2 later. I'm going to have 9, and then if I do x to the 3rd, and remember this is x to the 1st, I'm going to have x to the 4th, and y, 2 and 3. Remember, don't multiply those. We get y to the 5th. That's like our first property that we looked at. And we still have it all to the second power. So I'm going to do 9 to the 2nd, and I get 81 because I need to distribute this to all three pieces of the product. 81, and then x to the 8th because 4 times 2 is 8, and y to the 10th because 5 times 2 is 10. And this one would then be as simplified as we could get as well. Okay, the last one we have then is what's called our zero property. And you see here, anytime we have some expression, number, variable, whatever it is, raised to the 0 power, what that's always going to give us is going to equal 1. Now that doesn't mean that we get x to the 1st. That means this whole thing, whatever's being raised to the 0 power, becomes just 1. Okay, a little trickier here. This 1 is not being raised, so we're going to leave that, but the x to the 0 on the bottom, that becomes 1, and then 1 divided by 1 here we get is 1. Okay, so everything that's raised to the 0 power becomes 1 in that case. And that is all of the product properties. So we did product of powers, that's, remember, like bases, you add the exponents. Okay, power of a power and power of a product, these two are very similar. Basically you distribute the power and you multiply in these cases. Okay, you distribute the power and you multiply powers. And then the last one, zero property, anything to the 0 power equals 1. Alright, so we will see you guys next time.